I'd like to show you how to join an edging using Rick Mondragon's sliding loop intarsia technique. For this swatch, I've cast on and worked garter stitch back and forth, so it was worked this way, and then bound off, and I used a crochet chain cast on. I've done a regular bind off. You can see how that produces little chain loops, and I also did a slip stitch selvage, which also gave me chain loops. And this is something I will often do on a scarf, a blanket, a shawl, if I have an edge that will be a raw exposed edge at the end of the project. It's not too fancy, but it gives me a clean edge. However, if you are already in the habit of doing this, you may be delighted to know you can come back and add edgings after the fact, and this could be done weeks, months, years later. Most books that tell you how to add an edging after the fact will have you work across the edging. When you get to the interface between the edging and the body of the item, most books will either ask you to work knit two together or slip slip knit, or there's even a method where you sort of pull up a stitch. It almost looks like knitting up a stitch, and then you pass that stitch over this last stitch of the edging, so you sort of drop it like that. And all of those methods will work, but they all produce a fairly thick join at this interface. That's not a bad thing if you're in garter stitch, as I am here, but if you're doing a really open gossamer lace, probably a stockinette based lace, having a thick area that's really structurally stiff and doesn't behave like the rest of your fabric it's just a little annoying. It doesn't make my heart sing. So what I like about Rick Mondragon's sliding loop modular intarsia method is it gives you a really flat join, and I wish you could feel how flat this join is. Not only is it a nice flat join, but when I flip it over, you'll see that it looks the same on both sides. So it is flat and it is reversible. Now here I'm picking up a loop every other stitch, and it's a little bit lacy, which on a lace shawl I would call a feature, not a bug. If you are doing a blanket or something that's going to have more wear and tear, you might want to do this method instead, where you pick up every loop instead of every other, and you see how it's very clean on the front. When I flip it to the back, it's not quite reversible. I mean, it's good and it's clean and tidy, but it's not identical on both sides. The chain loop rolls to the back, and if you are picking up an edging in a different color, you do get just a little bit of pearl blipping through here. But it's not horrible. It's not dreadful. So you have two options. So let me show you how this is done. The edging I'm working here is a basic Russian edging. It's a sawtooth edging. Really basic edging. I don't have to change anything about my stitch pattern. So that's one of the nice things about this technique. You can look up whatever stitch patterns you like and just go from there. You don't have to make any special changes to make this work. So I'm going to work the right side row of my edging, and I'll get all the way over here. There's the last stitch of the edging. Now I'm going to continue this method. So rather than picking up here, I most recently went there, I'm going to skip this one and I'm going to go up here. So I'll get under both legs and pull that up. And if that is tricky for you to do, if you have trouble doing it with a knitting needle, just get a crochet hook instead. So this looks like a knit up stitch, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that stitch nice and large. And I'm going to work across on the wrong side row and then work back on the right side row using this loop. So let me make the loop nice and big and turn to the wrong side of the work. So here we are on the wrong side of the work. Make sure you are using the correct end of the loop. When I pull here, that's really loose. That's going to the skein. If I pull here, see how that snugs up? That's going to the project. That's the piece of the loop I want to use. So that's the part that goes in my hands. And now I work a wrong side row. And again, I work this in whatever pattern the Stitch Dictionary or the design, whatever I'm working from, whatever my source is. Whatever it says to do, I just do that. I don't have to make any special changes to it. So that's the end of the wrong side row. I'm going to turn to the right side. And it is easier if you're on double points to kind of poke that through the loop. I have done this with a circular needle, and I found that the circular needle cable and the Mondragon loop tended to get twisted around with each other. So I would say you probably want to be on double points, and these are actually a little long. You ideally want to be on double points that are about the same width, just a little wider than whatever your edging is. And now I'm going to work a right side row. And again, this is just in whatever pattern I happen to be using. I don't have to make any special changes. And almost there. Okay. Now you may be wondering, there's quite a bit left. What do I do about that? I take the skein end and I tug, and it just evaporates away. So I've worked out and back with my loop. To keep going with the lacier pattern, I would now work out and back without making a loop. So just a row out and a row back, and then when I got back to the end of a right side row, I would pick up again, and since I picked up there, I would skip this and go here. And of course, if I were doing the method that's better on a blanket, I would instead just go here. I would pick up another Mondragon loop and out and back like I just did. So there you are. That is how to join an edging using Rick Mondragon's sliding loop intarsia technique. It's the sort of thing, if you show up at a guild meeting with a project done this way, I think most of your friends will be hard-pressed to figure out what you did. So have at it and enjoy.